Yermi, I'm delighted that you are my our guest today, because from the time we met through a LinkedIn connection.
Mhm.
We've evolved from there to learn about each other's interests. We've evolved from there to really develop a genuine interest in some of the things that we're doing, both professionally and beyond. But in the interest of this conversation, I told my buddies that I'm bringing a gentleman who's a rabbi, and I like for you to help us, give us the best way to address you. I usually just call you Yermi, which I think is not the most respectful. Tell us your full name and let us know, should we address you as rabbi in the course of this semi-professional conversation, or should we just call you Yermi?
No, Yermi is perfect. I'm no longer practicing a rabbi, so I mean, even though they say once a rabbi, forever a rabbi, but no. But I transitioned. I transitioned from practicing as a rabbi. It's been now almost a year. So I went into the business world, and through our conversation, I guess I think that's the purpose of the meeting. And I'll show you that transition. I'll show you,
Okay.
that little journey in a sense. There was
Yes.
never an intention ever becoming a rabbi. That was just to please my father at the time. And it turned out good in a sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where I am today. So no, but Yermi's perfect. So
Awesome. Awesome. How do you pronounce your last name?
Kurkus.
Kirkus. I mean, it's very straightforward. It's not like there's some names that there might be a little trick consonant somewhere that you may not
Yeah,
get it right. So,
yeah, yeah.
all right, cool. So we're just gonna jump right in. I know that you're doing a lot of exciting things, but I want to find out, how did you get started in your current practice, whereby you are coaching people, you are able to help some start businesses. How did you get started? Give us a little sense of that.
Sure. So thanks to Gideon, we have the story a little bit more concise. Um, so um, so he's a phenomenal coach. I do appreciate him very much. But yeah, let me just share with you a little bit, give you a little bit of a visual of where I came from and where I am today. It really all started, when I was a little kid back in Montreal. That's where I grew up. I was born and raised in Montreal, Canada. And I grew up in the Jewish and Orthodox community. And as every community, I would assume, is that there's a lot of volunteer and community service type of opportunities. And I was just that kid that just loved it and would always jump right in. And so my family and my parents and my teachers would always say, hey, you could help people as a profession. It seems you love this so much. Which led me down the road to consider medicine. Since doctors save people's lives, medicine helps people. And I figured medicine is the way to go. Long story short, that wasn't for me. I went down that route. That it wasn't for me. When I quit pre-med, my parents were trying to convince me, no, go back, don't give up on your dreams. So I volunteered as a paramedic to kind of, get hands-on experience. But that really set the bar, and that said no. So I went to business, something that I was really good at, something that I was passionate about. I went to study business. I started a business. But then in 2010, that's when, all hell's breaks loose. Could you ever imagine that time when your world is just like falling apart on you the way you know
Oh no.
it? Or how about, think of it this way, 3 tons of bricks comes smashing down on you.
Ouch.
So, yeah.
Ouch.
Okay, that was my 2010. My wife leaves me, takes away the kids. I get divorced. My mom dies, and my business is forced to shut down.
Ouch.
All in 10 days. Yeah, literally in 10 days. Think of it, Thursday to Monday, your world just collapses. Tons of bricks are shut at you. It's crazy.
Uh,
So I
how did you get beyond that? That's really, really, really painful.
Yeah. So I fall into a very, very deep depression, clinical depression, as it's called, up until the point of contemplating suicide. It was a serious time, and I just get this flash, like a moment, And again, as I said, I grew up in the Jewish Orthodox religion with faith and everything, but at this point in time, you don't know who to believe, what to believe. You're so lost. And so I just, it's like for the first time in my life, I just sort of, metaphorically speaking, get down on my knees and start praying, and just say, hey, you, whoever you are up there, whoever, whatever, God, Hashem, I don't know, whatever you call you did this, you fix this. This is on you. Okay, I have nothing. I don't know what to do. I'm done. I'm at the end of my line. Finished. The way I know it, the world has ended. I don't know what to do. And with that little prayer, I kind of said, I'm dedicating my life to you and to people and to society, because that's what I really want to do. I really want to help people. And so whatever that means, that's going to give me purpose. That's going to give me a reason to live, to continue going. You fix this. So as I'm in a crazy state of mind, I'm just going to take a walk just to relax, just to ease it out. And on this walk, I bump into a friend who I haven't seen in a while. And hey, what are you doing? How you doing? Little conversation. Ends up he's an advocate in the prison system in California. Okay. And we just got to talking. I said, perfect timing. I just need purpose. Is there any volunteer opportunities? Could I volunteer? Just give my time. Sure, there's always volunteer opportunities. We'll fly you in. We'll take you in. So let's. And
in what city was that, Yermi?
This is in Los Angeles. Los Angeles,
LA. Okay, yeah. Thank you for putting that.
So anyhow, so I get there, and I don't want to give you all the details to bore you, but the gist of it is that this volunteer situation ended up becoming a full-time position. I got a couple of degrees in psychology. The last one is a master's in psychology. I was involved with a recovery situation. So I was volunteering in recovery rooms and stuff like this. Just a lot. And also I was getting the therapy I needed, the help that I needed to grow. And that's how I met mindfulness, through the therapy, through these things. I found mindfulness, I found meditation, visualizations, all that kind of nice stuff. And I would share it with the inmates that I ended up coaching. I started off as a rabbi in the prisons, but then I became a coach in the prisons.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so through the coaching and through the discussion and through the exploration, this program, OneUP, was born. And it was a huge transformation. A transformation in my life, a transformation in the inmate's life. I'll give you just a very quick synopsis of what that would look like. 21-year-old young guy. Okay.
If I may,
kid, what?
And who was an inmate? The kid was an inmate.
So he wasn't an inmate yet, but he committed a terrible crime. And he was under the influence of drugs, but still that doesn't excuse what he's committed. Very, very terrible, horrific murder. And the judge went all out on him. The judge gave him the full extent of the law. The worst possible sentence is life without the possibility of parole. Means he's never going to get the chance of getting out of prison. So here you have a 21, 22-year-old young guy in prison for the rest of his life. And he gets sober in prison. He doesn't have access to drugs or stuff like this. And it occurs to him what just happened. His life, as he knows it, is completely destroyed. It's done. There's nothing to live for. Long story short, ends up in my program, takes the 90-day program. It's a 90-day program, step by step, the coaching, all that stuff. And I find out afterwards, I follow up with them. Turns out he gets a degree in finance, ends up creating a program to help families of inmates with their financial needs and stuff like this. You could only imagine that, their breadwinner is in prison. So how are they doing financially? He figures out a program to help them. And the latest that I heard about him is that he's now teaching this program and this thing to other inmates, and he's helping other people. He created a whole university program in prison, technically a business. I don't know how he's doing this legally or how this is working, but it's unbelievable. It's
and he's still in jail.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be there forever. Yeah, but in prison, he found a meaningful life.
No kidding.
He found purpose. He's thriving. He's happy. He found his higher power. He found his
Yeah.
faith. He found it. He's just living a phenomenal life that he's just so happy.
Wow.
And that's one of many of similar stories. Okay, my story is similar to that, like how my life transformed. You know, everybody. I was looking for a wife. You know, and the way it works in my community is that only through matchmakers we find, you know, our spouses. Every
Yes.
matchmaker said, "No way, this woman doesn't exist." I gave them a list of 4 pages what I was looking for. Just get rid of the list. There's no list in our, you know, this doesn't work this way, you know. And I was like, no, but I know what I'm looking. I know what I want, you know. Turns out I end up getting married to this woman. Okay, the woman on
Wow.
my list. We just shared it the other day. I
No
said,
kidding.
you know, I'm talking about this a lot now. So 95% of what's written on the list is who she is today.
No kidding.
So it works. It's phenomenal.
Wow. So
So,
this is what I'm hearing. Not only were you able to get this really powerful V-shaped transformation, but the thoughts, the ideas that you created have also been transforming other people.
absolutely.
Is that clear?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Okay.
this is so I had a theory and I was taught that these tools, these are not my tools. I didn't invent them. You know, these are based on the Tao Te Ching. These are based on the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's
Yes.
based on Kabbalah. It's based
Mhm.
on many different, you know, psychology. It's based on so many different real, you know, science and ancient studies that worked for
Oh,
generations. Um,
okay. But
so
when you were developing this, did you even know that at some point it would take a life of its own? I know.
no. I developed OneUp for myself.
Mhm.
To be perfectly honest, I developed OneUp for me because I had a situation that I needed to fix. You know, I needed purpose. I needed to live a greater life than something.
Mhm.
And I was doing it for me. It was totally 100% selfish. Turns
Yeah.
out that it was just inmates that I was working with. So turns out that I was just I was just telling them what's going on in my life. That's really what it was. I never
Very
thought this was
interesting.
going to be anything, and it grew to become something.
Very
But
interesting.
I think the real kicker here is this past January, December,
Mhm.
when I was supposed to re-sign my contract with the prison system, with the advocacy group that was hiring me to, you know, help the prison system. Um, they came to me and they asked me, you know, of course you're signing on, right? Like you're awesome, we love you, right? And I was like, well, I kind of not really. And I had a question. I had a burning desire question. If OneUp has helped transform jailbirds into eagles,
Hmm.
what can OneUp do to eagles?
No
That
kidding.
was really my question. I mean,
No
think of it
kidding.
this way. People who have
Mhm.
nothing to live for, they're in prison. They have nothing to live for.
Yeah.
Transformed and they have everything to live for.
Yes, sir.
What can this program do to people who have everything to live for?
Mm, mm, mm. That's
And
very
that
deep.
was that burning desire. And I said,
That
no,
is
I need to go. I need to take this to the next level. I need to one
that's
up myself.
that is deep. That is very deep. And as I'm digesting this, I'm sure my co-hosts, my buddies are also digesting this. If your program One Up can somewhat set free a jailbird, what more? What can it do for the eagles that are already soaring and roaring out there? That's a very
Yeah, of
profound thought that I would like to take note of
course.
and maybe see dwell over it. But I know that we're in a virtual world. Everything looks very fluid. There's an interesting coincidence here. I know that last time we spoke, you were in North Carolina, right?
Hmm.
The name of the city is it Asheville?
Just outside of Asheville, yeah.
Okay. And turns out my two buddies on this call today, Steve and John, are in the great state of North Carolina. They may not be too far away from where you live. Both of
Nice.
them are in. Gentlemen, want to say?
Charlotte area,
Yeah.
Oh,
suburbs of Charlotte. It's a couple hours
There you go.
from Asheville.
Yeah.
nice,
So
nice.
small world, small world. But the point I say that is because we need to be grounded. These things are
Yeah.
working, and who knows who could benefit from this? They may know people in their circles. They may know
Mhm.
friends, families that could benefit from this, or themselves and myself. So that's very important. Another thing that I just like to check with you is tell me a little bit more about some of the highlights that you have discovered in the last, say, 1 year since you left the prison system where you were working. Any highlights so far?
So sure, yeah. So my question when I left the prison system and I was working with inmates, unfortunately, and I don't mean to discriminate here, but unfortunately, inmates are, so to speak, the lowest on the totem pole of our human society.
Yes,
People
indeed.
tend to forget them, okay?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I found meaning working in the prison was that here I had an opportunity to really connect to people on on the most humane level.
Mm-hmm.
I would never ask them about their crime. I never, unless they shared it with me, I would have never known. I had no idea who I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And I often tell this to people, the way I was raised and the way I learned who a rabbi is, I was taught that a rabbi is a specialist in souls. He's a soul specialist.
Mm-hmm.
That's who a rabbi is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wish I was a specialist in souls, but I definitely, when I was working as a rabbi, I definitely tried very hard to look at a person's soul. In my program, OneUP, we call that higher version of self, because not everybody relates to soul in a sense. But the way I relate to soul is that higher version of self, that human part of humanity. So, and that's what I really, really cared about so much. And so I asked myself a question. I said, business people, CEOs, big entrepreneurs, like all these other people, think of the Steve Jobs, of the Richard Bransons of the world. These are the pushers and these are the doers of the world. If we all look back and remember, Apple's ad, think different, here's to the crazy ones, very famous ad. It occurred to me that there are so many people who struggle. These are people who have dreams and ambitions, and the average person outside, maybe their parent, their teacher, their surroundings, their people, don't believe in their dreams. I have that dream. I have this massive dream to make this world a better place, one dream, one job, one business at a time. That's what drives me. That's my mission statement, And I think to myself, I have a dream to one day own an island. And I was always told that I'm crazy for thinking that. I never had somebody there to tell me how to get there and why not? There are other people who own islands, and I have plans of what I want to do with the islands, but why not? And why is that so looked upon in a negative way? And so if OneUP helped these people in unimaginable situations, completely transform, who would have ever thought that an inmate in prison can help people financially? Whoever thought an inmate in prison leaves the prison and becomes a big, real estate entrepreneur? That's one of my clients as well. How could that be, right? You ask yourself. And so I really am looking for business professionals, entrepreneurs, people who have that big, mindset, that big dream. I'm there to empower them. I'm there to tell them it's possible. Here are the steps. Here's how other people did it. And I'm here to show you how to do it.
Okay. Besides being a sole professional, almost, should I say, by cultivation, by nurturing over the years, are there other specialties that you have mastered that you can help the people that come through your OneUP program? Yeah.
So definitely, I would attribute it to communication. I think communication is the key. Coming without a judgment. I completely stay completely objective when I come in. I hear your dream. I want to help your dream. I have another service called CPO services, which is a service that helps small to medium businesses who cannot afford a chief people officer. Those guys are expensive, and we all know that culture is so important in business, right? Why should these businesses lose out on that, right? So I have a service that helps them. But what is it that I do is that I come in and I'm listening to your business. I'm listening to your life. It has nothing to do with what I think. I don't know, to be quite honest. But then how do we make these steps that are universal, that are proven to work for you on a practical level? We hear mindfulness, this like voodoo, I don't know what, but how do we make it practical? How do we make it every single day? So I honed in on those skills. That's to answer your question about that.
Okay, thank you. And one of the things that we want our guests on Ramp to Success, or as we would like to say, the program or the podcast that helps you to jumpstart your journey to the mountaintop of success. We like to learn from our guests. What are some of the morning routines that you practice so that it puts you in a good mind frame to go out and engage with the world, which sometimes might not be as positive, as energized, or as engaged as you are. And is any morning routines that you practice?
Beautiful question. Yeah, so beautiful question. So I like to say that my morning routine is a continuation of my night routine. In the Jewish religion, we start our day at night. Okay, the way you go to bed is the way you will wake up. If you go to bed, on time, let's say, you will wake up rested. If you go to bed late, you will wake up tired. Okay. So the way you end your day is the way you start your day. So I have this routine in the night and in the morning, the same routine. So to answer your question about what's my routine, so the first step is that I have a visual. I start with visualizations. So I visualize two things. I visualize what would my life look like if I went in one direction, or what would it look like if I went in another direction. I don't know how much time I have left, but I won't give you the details of exactly what that visualization looks like.
Yes,
but
sir.
one of them is basically, I see myself, what's the worst case scenario? In a decapitated, a nursing home, in my 90s or whatever, in a really negative place. And my grandchild is sitting on my lap, looks up to me and asks me, "Grandpa, what did you do with your life?" The alternate, and then I visualize the alternate of being on my private islands, surrounded by all this beauty and all this nature and all this wonderfulness, and my grandchild looking up at me and saying, "Grandpa, what did you do with your life?" So I start with that, and at night I ask myself, what did I do today to get anywhere closer to either end? Did I do anything that is going to take me to option A, or did I do anything that's going to take me to option B? What did I do? And then what can I do tomorrow to get closer to my, what I call ideal life? So that's the night part. In the morning, I do the exact same thing, just the opposite. Okay. I think to myself, okay, today I have the chance to perform, right? So either I'm going to perform on this side or I'm going to perform on that side, one or the other.
There you go. Wow.
And then I always finish off with three gratitudes and three affirmations. I say 3 I ams. Whatever I say after I am is who I am. So if that's going to be negative, it's going to be negative. If it's going to be positive, it's going to be positive. But I choose to obviously stay positive because I want option B. So, but that's my routine in a sense.
That is fascinating. I've never heard that or read about that from anywhere. Thank you so much for that, Yermi. Which one habit would you say has made a greatest difference to you professionally or as a person? Which one habit that you practice? Obviously, there are many habits, but which one is your go-to when you get into that one, you do it, execute it well, the results are bound to come?
Yeah, I love this question because several of the OneUP steps, several of the 90 steps, really are there to build this particular habit. The habit of staying positive, no matter what happens, okay? All of us are going through the pandemic. It's very difficult. The political situation, it's unreal. We don't know where to believe, how to believe, what to do. It's crazy. I won't lie. It affected me, and the best way to do it is just say, hey, this is beyond my control. I can't go into the polls and start changing I can't do any of this stuff, right? So it's not in my control. I have nothing to do. There's a higher power in play here. I don't know what this is. But the same energy I'm going to put into thinking negative is the exact same energy that's required to put into the positive. I prefer the latter because I want my day to end on a positive note. I prefer living my day in positivity and optimism than thinking the negative. I don't know either candidate. I don't know the pandemic. I don't know. I don't. So, but I prefer to think that the world is going to end up in a much positive place and the world will not end in Armageddon. Okay. So I just prefer that. And that's how I prefer living my life.
Thank you. That's a good one. And So you mentioned about your very, very long-term goal of maybe owning an island. Now, I don't know which part of the world you're going to get that by that island. I hope it's an island that's closer to Africa where I grew up, because there's a lot of nature out there. Or is it
Nice.
Caribbean? Where do you see yourself going to purchase this island? Is it somewhere in the Philippines, in Asia? And besides that island, are there some other major goals on the way to that, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I'm gonna just say it like this. I had a teacher, one of my very first teachers, who taught me organizational psychology. That was in my business class back in McGill in 2008. McGill University in Montreal. I had a phenomenal teacher. And he asked a question, and he said, if you had all the money in the world, what would that number look like to you? You know, and this way you don't have to ever work again. You just do your thing or whatever, right? What would that number be? Now, remember, this is in 2008 when billionaires were just becoming billionaires, okay? Like billionaire was a new thing, okay? You know, today we hear 100 billion and we're like, whoa, you know? Back then, a billion was a big deal. I said, I want $1 trillion. I want to be the first trillionaire. I literally said that to him. And his mind just like exploded, you know? Everybody else were just like, yeah, $500,000 or $1 million or whatever. And I was like the only one in a room of like 200 students that said $1 trillion. And he asked me like, why? Why did you say that number? And I said, it's not about the number. Okay. That's the key thing that I feel that people forget. It's this abundance way of thinking. It's thinking in abundance. So I know that in visualizations, typically they say be as specific as possible. Okay. I disagree to a certain degree with that. Be as specific, but also be, you know, I call it bend, don't break. It's one of the 90 steps. Bend, don't break. Be like a palm tree. When there's a storm that comes, the palm tree could go all the way down there, but it's going to flip right back up. Okay. So bend, don't break, meaning have somewhat of a clear vision. I know that I want an island. I know it needs to have a mountain. I know it needs at least one runway for my plane. I know it needs a place for my yacht to park. You know, like I have these things. Yeah, I know you guys think I'm crazy. Don't worry, my heart is running just as fast. But hey, dream. If you're going to dream big and dream to a place where your heart stops, okay? Because that's the point. It's abundance. If you think in abundance, so I do have details, but I don't have, let's say, my location. I don't know if it's in the Caribbean. I don't know if it's in that. So that's called bend, don't break. I know what I'm looking for. When I'll be shopping for it, I don't know how old I'll be or when that's going to be. When I'll be shopping, here's on my list. I'm looking for this. Oh, okay. We can't have you know, this particular mountain. Fine. But as long as I have these other things, you know. So that's part of visualization, to make it practical, as I said, to make it really, you know, real. You know, it's going to happen.
Yep. And to your credit, you once had a list of almost 4 pages about your future wife.
Yeah.
And guess what? You nailed it with 95% success. So I think that is definitely awesome.
Yeah.
You can accomplish what you dream. Absolutely. And without dreaming, you cannot even accomplish it. And that reminds me of something that JFK, the famous JFK, when he was talking about putting a man on the moon in 10 years and returning him safely, he said, we're going to build rockets that have never been built. These rockets are going to travel at a speed about this to this. It's never been done. He was talking about all things that had never been done, and yet they were done, and he did not even get to see it.
Yeah.
It's almost like MLK also talking about, I may not get to that other side, but I've been to the mountaintop. So I applaud the fact that you are having that vision. You may not accomplish it. I'm not watering, I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but your children will. So you start by setting the vision and working on it and letting it propel you in the way that you work and engage with the world every single day.
Right. So if I may,
please go ahead.
Because I want to expand and I want to strengthen what you're saying, because it's 1,000,000% on the dot. And I really, really care that, you know, your audience and whoever's listening to this really walks away with it. That the reason why we lose our dreams are why are we afraid of dreaming these big dreams?
Mhm.
is simply because we don't see how attainable they can become.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the key problem, okay?
Mhm.
And I was like that. I was growing up as a kid that I wanted all these richness and all this stuff, and I didn't even know why I wanted it and why. I had no clue. And it took me time and introspection to say, hey, you know what? I want that island because I want all my family to be together instead of going to a summer camp. Or, I would love to have a retreat for where
Mhm.
so many people could come to and,
Yep.
enjoy. And, all these different, as I started understanding more what my
Mhm.
dream was, it started making more sense. But still, how do I attain this? Islands are expensive. First buy
Mhm.
it and then maintain it, okay?
Mhm.
It's extremely expensive. How am I going to
Yep.
get there,
Yep.
And what are the steps I need to take?
Yep.
So OneUP, here's the thing. OneUP is really, because I will never see the end goal of the person I work with. Like, let's say if I was to tell you what's the result of
Mhm.
OneUP, it's that you're going to live your dream. Okay, you're going to get
Mhm.
whatever it is that you're ever dreaming.
Mhm.
Will we ever see that? Probably. I don't know. I probably wouldn't, because at the end of 90 days, you're done. Have a nice day. You have all the tools you need. I don't continue with you. But
Yep.
what I could assure you is that we
Mhm.
will create a system of goals.
Mhm.
It's how to take this massive goal,
Mhm.
break it down into pieces, and make more attainable, smaller goals. And
Yep.
if you've accomplished this goal,
Mhm.
that's going to propel you to the next goal. That's going to
I
propel
see.
you to the next goal, to the next goal. And if you are really, attacking these goals one step at a time,
Mhm.
you're on the right track.
Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe I'm going to get my island when I'm 90 or 100 years old. I don't know. But
But
I
you
know
consistent.
that I'm on this. I know that I'm reaching every single goal that I set myself.
You
Every goal I've
consistent.
ever put myself, I've achieved them,
Thank you.
and I know that I'm on the right track. So
Okay.
that's what gives me confidence that I'm going to reach my ultimate big goal.
Okay. Thank you. I know this is really cool stuff, and it reminds me of the work of uh, Carol Dweck. Dr. Carol Dweck, Stanford professor in psychology, talks about mindset. I'm sure
Yeah.
you must be very, very familiar with that lady.
Mm-hmm.
You coming from a psychology field. She talks about growth mindset and fixed mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Can you shed some light on that? And the people that come through your program, OneUp, are they more those that are leaning towards fixed mindset or those that are leaning towards growth mindset? If you can, maybe just shed a little bit on that, because
100%.
it may be something that some of us are dealing with professionally.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think either end is the right way to go. I
Mhm.
think the balance is the right way to go. So there
I
are
see.
benefits and there are validities to both
Mhm.
mindsets. Like one thing is that you have to have your faith set in stone.
Yeah.
I for sure believe that I'm going to achieve XYZ. I
Mhm.
for sure know that I am a positive person.
Mhm.
I am 100% love. That means
Mhm.
anybody who sends my way negativity,
Mhm.
I don't care. I love people. Why? Because I am love.
Yep.
It's not that I love people, it's that I am love and I
I see.
embody that mindset. So
Yeah.
that's technically a fixed mindset, if you will. Okay.
Mhm.
But again, bend, don't break. Remember that rule. You
Yeah.
know, also be ready to say, challenge your mindset, challenge your, how much love or how much, who do I love? Do I love people who are trying to literally kill me? Like what am I supposed to do? Right. And there's, you know, and then where the growth mindset comes, I call it the unlimited mindset. Who are
Mhm.
you to limit anything? The world is abundant. The world is unlimited.
Mhm.
Grant Cardone says it best. I really like how he puts it. He says, um, don't be afraid of money. People always say, "Oh, I can't afford it," or "I can't do it," or "I can't." Don't be afraid of that, because there's so much abundance of money
Mhm.
in the world.
Yes.
That when you click, like technically run out, the governments
Yeah.
will print more. Okay, so you'll never run out of money. It's guaranteed, and I agree to that. I agree. Think in an abundant way. Don't limit yourself
Yeah.
to your limitation, because that's technically prison. Okay,
Okay.
you are in
Okay.
your own mind. You're in prison in your mind.
Mhm.
You want to be free.
Yes.
That's how these inmates are free in prison. is that they release themselves from the prison that they have control over. And that's that mindset you're talking about.
Yep.
You know, so have a balance between the quote unquote fixed mindset and the growth mindset, but do it in a healthy way. Let them work together. How I call it also a paradoxical phenomena, or the dual polarities. These work together, you know.
I see.
So that's how that works.
Okay, that's awesome. What kind of routines have helped you to stay focused on your mission? I know you already talked about your morning routines. What other routines, say during the day, in the course of engaging with customers, in the course of engaging with prospects, have helped you to stay on your purpose and your mission so far?
Yeah. So the consistent reminder of my mission, who I am. I meet a lot of people that do drain my energy. You know, I meet a lot of negative people. I meet a lot of people who, who think that I'm crazy. And there's a lot of people who say, hey, how's OneUP going to help me? You know, but the bottom line is that I'm on a purpose. I'm on a driven purpose. And that's that fixed mindset in a sense, you know.
No wonder, you said.
I just keep reminding myself. I'm here to make this world a better place. This is my vision. This is what I'm here about. You know, I cannot physically by myself make change 7 billion people, 8 billion people, but I definitely could connect with other people. And I could definitely, if I help you transform, you're helping others transform, and thus the mission is successful. So the routine is just in here, okay? The moment you're being taken down, okay, here's another thing with all this Zoom stuff, right? I schedule my Zooms with at least 15 minutes apart from each other. I don't go from one Zoom to another. And the reason for that is because I really want to be 1,000,000% present in this time.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And I take 15 minutes to just go take a walk outside, you know, around the block or around the whatever, you know, just to clear my mind, even if it's just climbing up the stairs to come back down, whatever it is, you know, just distract yourself, walk away from the computer and then come back. And that sort of resets your mind. You know, and it's a reset. And it brings you back to the moment.
That's powerful, because some years ago I was studying how the brain works, and it says that the brain needs time to download. And when we're downloading, if you can step out, you walk in greenery, it helps in the downloading process more than when you are just indoors. So when you schedule your 15 minutes breaks there, that really helps your brain in downloading the important elements of the previous conversation and clears your mind before you begin the next one. So I really appreciate that, because it's something that I can benefit from. I can practice more of that. I can do more of that, even though I was informed about it, but I just didn't practice it. So thanks for reminding me about
Gideon,
it.
do me a favor. Please follow up with me. I would love to hear how this works for you.
Yes.
And whoever else is doing this, please, you know, reach out to me. I would love to hear how this works, because it works for me, you know, and I just say, this is what I do. And maybe 15 minutes is not for you. Maybe you're busier than that. Maybe 5 minutes is good for you. Maybe 2 minutes is good for you. But I don't know. I mean, find what works for you. For me, I'm somebody who really like visualizes and you know, for me, 15 minutes works. That's what I found for me. For me to be fully present in this meeting, I had to have a 15-minute preparation. I needed it. You know?
Thank you.
So I would love to hear back some feedback how that works.
Okay. No, I would start to implement it. It's a little cold out there these days, but if I can't really go out far away, at least I can step away from the computer, walk around the house, go upstairs, come back down, and just do some stretches before I get back to the table and start the next meeting. That way I'll be more present and benefit from the next conversation. But I also recall you mentioned to me, when you give feedback to people on LinkedIn, you read through every single word, you read through every single comment, and you make sure you comment specifically about it. And I could say you're the only person that I've met that made that very clear that that's a goal that they attain. And I appreciate that, because it therefore it really indicates that you practice these things that you're preaching. So that's very important.
Yeah. Definitely practice what you preach. I think moving forward in our new normal, it's going to be the new currency we're going to be seeing in the world is value.
Yes.
How much value can you bring? I think people have become very weary of just the average salesman who's coming and selling you on stuff and everything.
No.
I'm done with sales. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
I'm so done. I hate sales. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm done with it. And I get hit up on LinkedIn all day long with people trying to sell me on something.
Yep.
I'm so done with it. I'm tired. Okay.
I think
what value can you bring me or somebody else? Or here's another thing. How can I even make you more valuable to your audience, to your customers, to your people? If you remember, Gideon, I told you I do not accept to come onto this thing if I'm not bringing you value. You have to convince me that I'm bringing you value. Sell me on on me bringing you value. Otherwise, I'm not interested. It's not going to work for me. And
I know from our exchange or interactions that you said you were preparing for this because you want to be able to deliver as much as possible, so that whoever is listening should not go away a blank slate, but should go away with something in their basket, should go away with something new that they've picked up. Talking about that, you are not a salesy guy. And I think in some ways, I don't want to be a salesy guy. How then do you grow your business? How do you promote your business in a way that is meaningful and yet not salesy?
Okay, so beautiful question. So first of all, I have a 30-minute free consultation, free coaching session. It's commitment free, especially now because of what we're going through. So many people are struggling. Also a gift from me to you guys, to your audience, whoever's listening. I don't know how you're going to share it. I'm going to send you my email that people could send me an email, or my calendar, however works best for you guys.
We can put it up on our resources so that our podcast listeners who enjoy the episode, they can then log in, download it from there. So you send that to me and I will work.
I'm going to send it to you. Absolutely, yeah. So it's my email or the calendar. Book the appointment. It's 30 minutes. It's free. Again, no commitments. And the purpose of that call is not going to be a sales call. It's not going to be a pitch. It's going to be none of that. I want you to come ready with one problem, one thing that's the most pressuring right now. Let's discuss it and let's explore some tools. I want you to walk away with something that you could take right now and see results right away.
Sign me up.
Sign me up, everybody, because that I get pitched all the time. Somebody said, "Hey, I'll get you more clients." Okay. Yeah. I said, "Sure, no problem. What, you have a free trial, something?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Great, I'm taking it. 5-day challenge." I did the 5-day challenge. Okay. Nothing came out of it. I get a phone call back. "Okay, do you want to schedule now the coaching for $5,000? Whatever, I'll get you clients." Hey, you didn't even get me one client. Like, why should I trust you? Here's another one. Somebody else told me, when I first started the business, right? I'll help you jumpstart your business from zero to like, you don't need a penny to start your business. Here's how you do it. I took her free course. Okay. I got one client. Okay. I did get one client from that course. What do you think I did? Did I buy her full course?
No.
Hell, I did. Yes, I did. I bought her full course.
Okay.
I did. It worked. It worked. I bought her full course.
Yep.
And it's working. Okay, that's the reality. She taught me a lot of this stuff give value. People want value,
Thank you, sir. Thanks for saying that.
And that's what it's about. And I'm not here, it's not about the money for me. Here's a great other example, okay? And I'm going to end on this and this for this topic.
Yeah.
When I graduated with my industrial psychology degree, industrial psychology is the psychology of businesses. So typically, people who have this degree, one of the jobs they can get is something called the chief people officer. And the chief people officer helps the business grow and they help with the culture, all these nice things. And only big companies could afford this stuff. It's about a $200,000 salary, And I looked over to my wife when I graduated. I told her, I have a lot of connections in Silicon Valley. I know a lot of people. I could easily get a job out there if I really, really wanted. If I really wanted, I could. $200,000, we're comfortable. It's a nice salary. Why not, right? So I have that choice. Or I could go to small to medium businesses who cannot afford this $200,000, service, do it for a fraction of the price, help empower somebody within their company to become their long-term future CPO from much fraction, and they're going to grow.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm going to be solving 3 massive problems of employees not being fully engaged. Employers are not happy and satisfied with their workers and the growth that they could grow. Yeah. So that to me was meaningful. That to me was valuable. See,
I
and
see.
Bring value. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Thank you. Value. That's what I'm hearing. Now, in the next segment, which I'm just gonna ask some very direct questions, just give me 1 or 2 word answers. Then after that, I'm gonna pause so that I bring in my co-producers and they can ask some questions because I might have omitted some important elements from our conversation. Yermi, what is your best business book or best book that you'd like to recommend?
Too many to count.
Just give us 1 or 2.
In business right now
can help small people in small businesses grow. 1 or 2 that you can remember.
So I would start. The first book that I read in business is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Okay,
that would be a great place to start.
I've read that. It's a very interesting book. Which podcast do you listen to these days?
Oh gosh, so many. There's one in particular that I really, really am enjoying right now. So I go in phases, so I try different ones, but the one that I'm listening to right now, his name is Ellie Nash, Elinash. So two names, Ellie and Nash. Yeah. It's I forget the actual name of the podcast, but I like his stuff. He has some really, really, he's raw, he's real, he's really good. Yeah. That's what we're thinking.
Okay. Yermi, do you use a coach? Do you use a business coach?
Yeah, I do.
Is this highly kept secret, or is one you can just pop out the name, or maybe just the first name?
His name is Jordan, but I highly recommend him. He's phenomenal. So if anybody wants a really good business sales coach, definitely reach out to me, and I'll share with you his information.
And Jordan was the last name?
Jordan Watts.
Jordan Watts.
Ross. ROSS.
Okay, Jordan Ross.
Highly recommended.
What's your favorite ice cream?
It's vanilla with caramel twist.
Okay. Vanilla with caramel twist. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I have a lot of other questions, but I need to pause here and let my buddies ask some questions because these are smart men, and I'm sure that they've been listening so well. They probably have processed it 10 times better than me. I'll let John or Steve.
I'm chomping at the bit, man.
Yeah.
I had 2 questions that I've been holding because I didn't want to interrupt. That's one of the things I'm working on. You mentioned a routine that you do that I have tried off and on over the years and I've struggled with, which is the 3 gratitudes. And the thing that I found a challenge with that I'd like to get your thoughts on is I found myself each day saying I'd sit down to write 3 things I'm grateful for. And I would find myself just repeating the same things every day. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for having a nice home to live in. Grateful for my family, right? And then the next day, I couldn't think of it. It was the same thing every day. And then I thought, it doesn't feel like it's motivating me like I feel like it should. What are your thoughts on how to do that practice to really maximize, wring the most out of it?
Okay, I love that question. And you know, a lot of people when they say gratitude, so that's technically what they recommend you to start with. It's a great bouncing board to learn how to be grateful for something. Is what are the immediate 3? It's always health, family, and something immediate around you. So that's a great way to learn how to be grateful. But with my coaching, what I like to do and what I do for myself again, is to find more meaningful and more, mindful, if I call it, more mindful things to be grateful for. And my approach is always like practical, now, immediate. So what am I grateful for today? Okay, this is the question. What happened today that I am grateful for? Okay, so find 3 victories of today. It's going to be a little bit difficult in the beginning, but you'll get used to it.
Yeah,
even
it
if
takes
it's
some
just
practice.
like, even if it's just like, hey, I smiled at my wife today. I was so grateful to be able to smile to my wife, which is the same as I'm grateful for my family. It's almost
Right.
the same thing, but it's
But a
more
little more
meaningful,
specific. Yeah.
more specific.
I like
And
that.
then again, this is very open to your own interpretation, but I would say 3 victories of that day, even if they're minute, even if they're whatever.
I like that. So another thing that I was thinking of when you're talking about your coaching, and you mentioned you have 2 masters in psychology, right? So in coaching, I know one of the big conversations in lots of different coaching calls that I've been on is always being clear. And I don't have a degree in psychology, so in a way, it's maybe less important for me. But making sure that you're always clear with clients on the difference between coaching and therapy or counseling with a real a professional who's got at least a master's degree in psychology. What are your thoughts on where you draw that line and best ways to go about that if you're coaching people?
Yeah, so I was in the conference of psychotherapy, and the psychologists and psychiatry. There's always, every year they have it once a year. This particular year when I joined was when they were in Vegas. So I went out to Vegas and I listened to all the workshops and everything. My goal originally was to become a therapist, to become a licensed therapist. That was my original goal. And through learning and through discussing it with the professionals, one of them, I cannot say his name because it's confidential, but one of them suggested that I should not get licensed. And he said, just your character. You're a very straight shooter. You're very direct. You're very, you don't beat around the bush. You don't, you say it as it is. That's a coach. A coach will beat you up. A coach will challenge you. That's a coach's job. Okay. So when I went to therapy, most of the therapy was just a Band-Aid. I felt that therapy was Band-Aids. Now, I'm not discounting that therapy is a negative thing. Therapy is supposed to, go to the root of the problem, suggest to you that you may have certain symptoms, you may have certain things that you're going with, but it doesn't stop there. Therapy does not, you need a coach after therapy. Okay, so you have therapy and then you have a coach. Therapy is just like right now you're bleeding profusely.
Like an
Stop the
emergency
bleeding.
room.
It's the emergency room, okay? Stop the bleeding, get the help you need to get to a certain level, but then you really need to work on yourself every single day. And that's why there's a huge difference between therapy and coaching, where therapy is always more expensive than coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching is usually sold to you in packages of X amount of months, whereas therapy is more like $100-$200 a session. You know what I mean? It's sold to you by session. So that's the key difference that I would say.
Okay, great. I love your perspective. Well, I could ask you questions all day, and maybe we'll catch up offline. But let me let Steve.
Thank you, Jim. This has been a great discussion. I really appreciate your time. A couple of things that came to mind for me. One is, you talked about going to the prison system, and you were a little bit lost when you started there, and you kind of developed your own training program, if you will. Can you tell us about that journey? I mean, that piece of how'd you go from, just being a volunteer to now I created this whole training program. Tell us about it.
So actually, I'll tell you the very, very first experience in the prison. So I'm there volunteering. Okay. So I first started, I have a little bit of background in business. I came with a degree in business. They were working on a very specific case that was business related. My job was really just to read through all the paperwork from the court, about 800 pages of court papers, and write summaries on them. That was how they use volunteers out. Okay, so that was literally how I started in that office. And then there was a holiday at that time, and they said, "Wow, we're running short on rabbis for the holiday to just do the services. Are you available? Would you be okay? It's a couple of nights a week." It was the 8 days of Hanukkah. So we just need you for a couple of nights. Are you available? I said, sure. What are the nights? So the first one was Saturday night. So that particular year, the first night of Hanukkah fell out on a Saturday night. So are you available Saturday night? Just we don't have anybody to join us for that day. Could you do the service in county prison? I said, sure. I mean, first of all, I thought that was phenomenal. Wait a second. You could get me into prison and get me out of it? That's kind of cool, you know? I thought that was very novel. So for me, it was more like, hey, I went into prison and I got out, you know? That was more like, you know, there was a little ego there. So that was that. So now Saturday is our Shabbat, our Jewish Shabbat. And I'm generally dressed nicely. I wear cologne, you know, I'm smelling good. I look good. And I just didn't have time to change out of my Shabbat clothes because it was like really, really short time. There was lockdown after, you know, it works that way. So we had to leave like right after synagogue, get into the car, you know, to half an hour from our area to the jail and to do the service and then to get out before there's lockdown for the night. So it was like a very fast thing. So I get in there, I'm looking good, I'm smelling good. And the way it worked on that particular time was all the inmates are lined up against the main wall. We walk by them to go into the middle of the room, set up our stuff that we need to do for the service, and then have them sort of like come into the room, you know, and then join the service. So that's a security situation. So that we don't walk through the inmates. So the inmates are lined up on the wall. So as I'm walking by, this tall, massive, huge guy, I would say 6 foot both ways, okay? Huge guy, massive, looks down at me and tells me, boy, Rabbi, do you smell good? And I lost it. I was like, boom, 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 you know, fireworks in my mind. The last thing you want to hear in jail or prison is that I smell good, okay? I was like, trust me, I'm not bending over. But, you know, but it was like, it was horrifying. That was my very first experience in the jail system. Horrifying. And I was like, I'm never doing this, okay? But then obviously I got over it. And then I went back and I said, you know, I'm not going to judge them. They're humans. You know, the prison is a very, very dehumanizing experience. I don't wish it on the worst of my enemies. You know, so it took time for me to sort of like gradually get in there, just really trying to put on blinders and not listen to what people are saying and not listen to these comments and not listening, you know. I got them plenty of times and eventually you gain sort of this immunity to that. But again, as I mentioned in my story, that the OneUP program was born from a stronger desire of fixing myself. And then I saw these other people who are challenged way more than I was just challenged, you know, and I just wanted their perspective on when I tell you, bend, don't break, what do you hear? When I tell you, there's a higher power, what do you hear? When I tell you things are out of your control, what do you hear? People that are in a worse situation than me, I needed their perspective to understand me better. So that's how OneUP was effectively born.
Fantastic story. Thank you very much. That was
very interesting,
very interesting and a little bit mind-blowing for those of us that haven't experienced that. So I really appreciate that. I'll ask you just one other question, and that is, do you have a favorite quote that either you live by or that you really appreciate?
Yes, definitely. Don't underestimate the depth of an ocean. So that's the quote, you know, the ocean is so much deeper than you think. Life is so much more than what you think it is. Don't underestimate that depth. You know, you're never going to reach your, you know, the highest, the 100% potential of who you are, because we're perfectly imperfect. You know, that's something that God created us as humans. We're perfectly imperfect. But don't ever underestimate how far you can take your quote unquote perfection. So that's the quote I live by.
Terrific. Thank you. Gideon, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Steve. And of course, above all, thank you to Yermi for taking the time to be with us this morning. On the West Coast, it's already midday on the East Coast. But you see, I have taken away so much from you today, Yermi, in terms of how I can jumpstart my journey to reach the mountain of success. A lot to unpack. I just need to take some time and begin to digest it. But I also know that I'm going to be booking my own 30 minutes so that I can discover some elements of OneUP that can transform me, because I am on this journey and I know that there are many people out there on this journey. And none of us, we don't want to lose, we want to win. And whether we are jailbirds, whether we are eagles, where all of us are looking to soar and roar in life. So thank you so much for those incredible perspectives. We can continue this conversation for a long, long time, but in the interest of being professional and respectful of your time, we would adjourn for today, and we will continue to re-adjourn through the other platforms like email and phone calls and on from there. Thank you so much, Yermi.
So thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I just want to leave with one last word. Remember that you're first human, okay? That's the key. Remember that you're human first, and you are something greater than, much more than anything else. And, you know, you're not defined by your skin color. You're not defined by your race. You're not defined by anything other than your humanity. And, you know, reach that potential as a human. So, be human today. So that's my message. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yermi. And peace to you and to all your peeps out there in Asheville.